OverDrive, off and running, TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, up on TSN 4, up on YouTube Live. Brian Hazio, Doug Jeff O'Neill, and Frankie Corrado. What's going on? How we feeling?
Feeling great, feeling loose, and driving. 50 brings some freedom that I never knew was out there. Today after the gym, I had a spandy on and sweat shorts over. I had to take the sweatpants. I had to take the sweatpants to get hemmed because they were a little too wide and too long. And I said, can you measure these up? And I said, you can just take them. I have a bunch of errands to run right now, and I'm going to do them in just the spandy with a winter coat. I wandered around in only a spandy all afternoon and did errands.
Spandex pants is what you're
spandex shorts.
Are we talking like bulge out there? Like, is that what we're talking about?
And how close to the knee? How close to the kneecap did the spandex shorts get?
They were high spandex short. Yeah.
So, like, creeping people out is what you're
dude, and it
saying.
Didn't faze me. I had to go into some places. Everyone welcomed me, and I did not have a problem. A winter coat with a hoodie underneath and down low a spandy only in runners.
You know what that is? That's the kind of picture that will make its way on Twitter or something, and people will be like, check this out, saw this on Lakeshore today. People are losing their minds, and it's you in spandex and a winter coat on.
Well, I have a lot to say on that because you know how I feel about Shorts Guy who jumps the gun. I know it's nice outside.
It was one of those things. I had a bunch of different stops to make. It's not going to be a regular occurrence.
It can't be. What does turning 50 have to do with this?
Because
that you
you're
just all
free.
Disregard to anything? Like you just don't care about society?
You gain this freedom where you're like, here's the spandies, people.
You're getting
Enjoy it.
Society's going to get it, whether they like it or not.
And I was feeling good about myself. I crushed a leg workout today with the life coach. And I was like, check out the Quadzilla, the Marty St. Louis Quadzillas, everyone, because they're available to look at. And I don't care if I have runners, a spandy on, and a hoodie up top.
Okay. You know what you are going to turn into very soon is if you've ever been to a public gym, let's say you've gone to the Y, and you've gone into the men's locker room after your workout is done, you will see some stuff that will scar you every time you close your eyes, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. An older gentleman who has a towel around his neck, not covering anything below because he's 50 plus, and he is free. He's free. And that's you in 10 years, maybe less.
Well, it would appear as if it's him basically today. I mean, I think it's more offensive to be spandex shorts guy out in public. You know, if you're in a locker room, it's a locker room. Those are wartime rules, man. It's a survival mode in there.
Whatever it takes, you got to go with whatever it takes.
Yes, but like being a part of society and walking amongst Torontonians in a short, tight spandex short, I don't think it's a thing, man.
Dude, I never thought it was a thing.
It should be.
I would always snap a pic of that guy and send it to you and say, please look at this goon down in Mimico. And today I had to rock it, and I did not. Honestly, I think because I turned 50, I got out of my truck. And usually I'd be like, man, I hope no. I just looked around and I said, I'm 50 and I'm free.
Wow. I love it. Okay, so we've got a new lease on life and a new view of everything based on turning 50. It is a beautiful day. I do feel like what's happening, like the Leafs are causing havoc on everyone. Like everyone is trying to adjust to what's going on with the Leafs. You know, you're walking around in spandex downtown. There's TFC, debut press conferences where Keith Pelley's getting pelted with Leaf questions, and we have that we'll play in just a moment, and I actually find it very funny. You've got Craig Berube and Brad Treliving seemingly not on the same page based on a lineup decision tonight. And it's just like no one knows. We're in this kind of warped world that we haven't been in a long time, and people just don't know how to react. No one knows how to handle what the hell's going on with the Leafs right now, and it's having a negative effect on everyone. Everyone's on edge. because there's just not. It's not a positive vibe.
No, I know.
It's not a
But
positive vibe.
You know what? Craig Button has used this phrase a lot, and it's so true. Regardless of what position your organization is, like as a team in the standings, you got to have solid leadership. Like somebody's got to grab the bull by the horns and say, like, we're not going to look stupid here.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to have one person ask this question. Do you know what I mean? Like, everything's got to be buttoned up. Even though this season has been a disaster and they're going to miss the playoffs and they're going to get rid of guys, like, you still have to keep doing it. You know what I mean?
It has to be a well-run operation.
Yeah,
you
and
have to exude class and
and I said yesterday when Struddy was on, it was like back in the day there was like the mandate: if you don't bust your ass the last 20 games and show that you care and you're going to work, you just weren't going to be here. And I think guys were generally scared. Like they were like, man, if somebody notices that I'm out there dogging it, maybe I'm looking for a job next year. But you can't have that Dion, Phil, JVR, Tyler Bozak last 20 games where they just flat out did not care about what was going on the ice. Because you want to talk about getting ugly down there at that arena, it will get ugly down there.
Well, because
that's when waffles come out and bag heads and all that kind of stuff.
And think about what we're on the heels of. We're on the heels of this team like being a very good regular season team for a long time, and the pent-up frustration that they never got over the hump, and now it's going to get sunk. Like there was an understanding, I think, 15 years ago that, hey, this might just be as good as we are. Fans hated it because they're passionate, but now they're going to hate it because they're passionate. Plus, they didn't win, and they had, they were in that arena for 10 years, which is, I think that magnifies it and amplifies it even more.
I think you're right. I think there's an element of Leaf fans that feel they got cheated because there should have been more, right? Like there was so much promise, there was so much talent, and it was a well-run organization, like very well. This was not just a gong show. It was really buttoned up and run properly, and it was a well-oiled machine, and yet they won 2 playoff rounds. So, and this is the other end of it, right? Objectively, you look at it, it's not a shock. There are teams, if I tell you for the next 10 years, the San Jose Sharks are going to go all in, and 10 years from now, they're going to be in a tough spot, you'd say, yeah, that's what happens. You trade picks and prospects, and you go for it. Hopefully you get a cup or two, so when you get to the end, you can say it was worth it, because this is what's waiting for you.
They have this thing in the back of their head where partially true, but they're tortured more than anybody else as a fan base, so they almost don't deserve that. It's like, how did we not get anything out of this final, like finally a 10-year span where the team was good and they felt like they have a shot, and we still got nothing out of it. So they just like because Maple Leaf fans are always like, nah, that's not going to happen to us. Like they have this kind of thing where they just think they're better than everybody.
Jaded. Well, you're jaded though too because of their history, and what you don't want to see again is where the vultures are out. We don't want to be coming on here every day and taking layup pod shots at the team. But today, there was a scenario where down at the pregame skate, they're in Jersey tonight. Berube was asked about whether or not they're going to have any roster management decisions. In other words, guys that are going to be traded, you're not going to play them tonight because you don't want them to get hurt. And 4 hours ago, give or take, he said, no, everyone's playing. And then 4 hours later, Ekman, Larson, McMahon, and Lawton aren't playing tonight.
Yeah, no kidding.
So how do you have a disconnect? Like maybe something crazy happened on all 3 fronts in 3 or 4 hours. Is it possible?
It's a possibility.
It's possible. It seems unlikely, but it's possible. But these are the kind of things you open yourself up to if you're not all on the same page, or the perception that you're not all on the same page. That the coaches in Jersey saying, no, I'm playing. Like, we're trying to win, and to my knowledge, I got no reason to pull any of these guys. And obviously a call came in a few hours later and said, pull these 3 guys, which means they're getting traded, which means they're not playing tomorrow either, right? You can't Ekman, Larson, Lawton, McMahon are being traded. That is what is being announced.
The same thing as the injuries building up, and then they cheaped out on that guy, the injury prevention guy. It's like, what?
Right.
What did that need to have? Like, what?
Well, just think about that for a second. they can sit out tomorrow night, but we're not going to do that tonight. What the hell's the difference? It's a back-to-back. The two games are essentially clumped together. Like, what if guys are going to sit out on a Thursday, why can't they sit out on a Wednesday?
Right, that's why you do it.
That makes no sense.
Exactly. Like, pull them. Like, obviously, the Tree Living's moving down the road of trading all three guys. I don't think anyone's surprised McMahon and Lawton are going to be dealt because they're UFAs. The Ekman-Larson trade is where I think your eyes start to pop and think you better get something pretty significant for him. Right? Like, you got to be reasonable. It's not going to be crazy. But I look at Carlo last year. I know Ekman-Larson's older, but he's a winner. You know, he plays with physicality. He puts up numbers. He's got a big shot. He can be a second power play guy. He's got 2 years left at $3.5 million. If you had to pay Fraser Minten and a first for Carlo, how much off
there,
that?
Don't go there, pal.
How much off should it be, though? How much different should it be for Ekman-Larsson? With the same amount of term, maybe they got to eat some money like the Bruins did for Carlo.
Connor Murphy just went for a second-round pick. I don't know what avenue you're going down. Because
Tyler Myers went for a second and a fourth, and Vancouver had to eat 50%.
Right. But I think
that's a pretty
better
good
than
return.
both of those guys.
But that's a pretty good return for Tyler Myers, is it not? But, like, I don't know. That doesn't mean that Oliver Ekman-Larsson automatically fetches you a first. In a perfect world, sure, that's great. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not getting my hopes up for a first-round pick coming back.
From any of these guys, like, there's no package out there. I mean, you know, Kiefer Sherwood just signed a 5-year deal at $5.75 per in San Jose. They gave up 2 second-rounders to get him.
Right.
You know, and you can pick your poison who you like.
That guy's a
more.
pretty good player.
I agree. You know, he's aggressive. He can score a little bit. McMahon, no, aggressive, can score a little bit, can skate. You know, I don't know. I don't know if that would appear to me to be a benchmark on what he's probably asking for. You know, it sounds like it 5 years, $5 million. I don't know if he'll get it. Maybe he gets a little bit less. But I think that's ultimately what needs to be expected. You know, this is the thing. You can't let a GM off the hook. When he went out and just paid, there's other teams out there that are looking for pieces. There are other teams that they have tunnel vision right now. They want to win a Stanley Cup. They believe they can.
But Brian,
you got to lean on those teams.
You're not going to go to other GMs and say, well, this is what I paid for that guy.
No,
so
I'm not saying that. But if that's the barometer that's out there, you know, like are the expectations so low with Tree Living and or the players that you don't expect the Leafs to get a good haul for these guys? Like Lawton, he paid a first in Grebenkin this time last year. That's another thing hanging over this team. Boston's got their pick this year. Philly's got their pick next year. Now, there's protection on that, but if I get it. It's a year later, no term, UFA. They've played themselves into a different position. I'm talking about the players. But this is where you have to have expectations for your GM. Brad Treliving's got to hit a grand slam. Has to.
And then
you got to
guess
win the next few days. You have to.
When you see what's going on where, like O talked about, there's the sports science guy, then they don't know what they're doing with Easton Cowan because they played him too many games before the Olympic break, so he couldn't go down and play games for the Marlies. Then they don't play him for the first two. And then it's like the coach and the GM aren't on the same page as far as are the guys who are valuable trade assets going to play or not going to play. Like, you start to look at the track record and you're like, how much confidence can you honestly have that there's this polished plan that's going to, restock the cupboards here with your assets? I don't know.
Yeah,
it feels more reactive than proactive.
Yep, and I guess that's that's what I'm saying. I'm not sitting here suggesting I have the highest expectations, but I'm saying collectively that should be the expectation, right? Like your expectation should be that the GM is going to win some trades.
Yeah.
Last year he lost 2. Well, okay. Now now you're on the other side of it, and those teams they put the screws to the Leafs last minute. You want this guy? This is what you got to pay, right? Like,
but Hayes, you have to look at this. Look at it from a different perspective. If this was the New Jersey Devils that were looking to try to unload Scott Lawton, Bobby McMahon, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and whoever else, you'd be looking at that scenario. All three of us would be, and we would be like, good luck with that. Good luck getting a return on that. And now we're looking at it because it's in our back door, and we're saying you better hit a home run here. The thing is, I agree with the home run analysis, but I don't know if it's available.
It may not be. It may
I do
be.
not know if it's available to hit a home run with what you're trying to move and what you're ultimately looking to get back. I don't know if a home run at this deadline, however they want to reshape this thing, is available, which is a shame, but it's a reality.
It may be. It may be. Now, they've made a conclusion. They're trading these guys. You know, you don't pull them from the lineup for 2 games and then keep them. I guess it's possible, but that would be amateur hour and look horrible. Right, like if you get to Friday at 3 and say, no, they're going back in the lineup tomorrow night, Tampa's in town, that is a horrible look, which would suggest they feel like there's a market for these 3 guys, or they know there's a market, and they're going to be willing to pounce on one of the offers that are out there. I would have to believe. I look at Ekman-Larsson. Every year it's you need defensemen, you need winner. He's a big veteran winning defenseman with term on his deal. He never gets hurt. Right? Like I think he's a good player. So I hear you, but if you think you're going to take a 2nd round pick for that, what's the point?
No.
Wait until keep him then. Like honestly, he's got 2 years left on his deal. You trade him in the summer. Like that's my point with Ekman. Like McMahon and Lawton are different. They're if you're not going to pay them, they're walking. You basically have to take what you can get, put your stake in the ground, try to get as much as you can. Ekman-Larsson is not a scenario where you have to trade him. You have 2 years left. Trade him in the summer. Trade him next year at the deadline if you want to.
And Hayes, the whole point of trading
Make sure you get a great price. If you don't, it's on you.
That's the thing. The whole point of trading Ekman-Larsson for this trade deadline is that you realize he's been their best defenseman. He's won Stanley Cups. He plays with that like little bit of edge that teams would want, and he's got the term. Yeah. So if you're doing it, you're like, I'm going to cash in. I'm going to cash in because I realize that next year we could roll into training camp, and it might not look the same for that player.
Exactly.
And we don't want to take that risk. So
That's
we're going to cash in our chips now.
Precisely the way you do it. And again, you guys haven't answered me. How is this different from Carlo getting a first in Minton, but the Leafs, it's like, it may not be out there.
Because Carlo's 27 and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, what is Carlo, 28, 29?
28, yeah.
Sure. And OEL's 35. I think that's your differentiator.
I don't think he's a better player.
No, God, no. But I think if you were looking last year, if you were, Brian Hayes was the Toronto Maple Leafs, Jeff and I were the Team B, and we were trying to decide like on Brandon Carlo and bringing him in, we probably thought that, okay, this guy's going to have 5 more quality years left of him. So we bring him in, he's got term, maybe we'll re-sign him after that. Where with OEL, he's not a rental, but you're also thinking the runway might not be as long as a guy who's in his late 20s.
That's reasonable, and that's a totally reasonable case to be made. But again, I'm not saying it's going to be the equivalent of Minton in a first, but if it's a second and a third and a middling prospect, to me that doesn't make a ton of sense.
You got to prey on a team. You got to prey on someone who needs a D-man.
What do you think Brandon Carlo, if they were moving off of him, what do you think he would fetch?
Well, I mean, again, the Leafs have done damage to their own players because of the way the season's played. Like he hasn't had a great year. It's obviously not going to be the equivalent of what the Leafs paid for him. But I don't know. I mean, he's still a big right shot defense. He's a 5. He's a 4 or a 5. That's what he is. He's a depth, kind of reliable defenseman that can kill some penalties and not going to move the puck that well. He's not overly physical or aggressive. But you could get something for him, but clearly as of now, it doesn't look like they're going to be trading him.
I think if you could get a second, you would sign that deal today. You would do that deal today if you were getting a second for him, would you not?
Man, and that's why I don't think he'd do it, Tree Living, because he would. I think he'd be embarrassed by that.
Right.
Like how do you come out a year later, Fraser Minton and like the 7th overall pick going to Boston, and you're taking the 48th pick in the draft.
I do wonder, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but on Friday, like, if there's some players that have, like, a bad team odor to them, and it's not necessarily the individual player's fault, like, it's more of a byproduct of what they've been surrounded by this year, but, like, how much do teams take that into consideration and say, I just don't want that. Like, it's been bad for him this year, whether it's been him or the team. I'm going to keep it out.
I think it factors in for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you're always your value's going to go up when you're in a positive environment, and and conversely, I think the good teams prey on that. Get him out, get him in here. Look at Seth Jones last year; he was a disaster in Chicago. He gets to Florida, he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know?
Norris. They look like a Norris candidate.
Yeah. He was great throughout their cup run. And so, that's the problem when you're on the wrong side of it. But there was a press conference down at BMO, I believe it was today. Josh Sargent is in town and being introduced by TFC, and he's the new big ticket. He's going to be the face of the team, their best player moving forward. And there's an organization that needs help too. Like TFC had their golden age, and it's fallen off. They have not been in a good place the last couple of years. And this is, again, where the Leafs, you can't get away. Like, Keith Pelley must be getting this kind of stuff everywhere he goes. This is earlier today, Josh Sargent, introductory presser. Keith Pelley's up there, the whole staff from TFC, and this was a back and forth with the media.
Keith, last week you wrote to Maple Leafs season ticket holders saying that you would do whatever it takes to turn this team around. Could you be specific and outline exactly what you think needs to happen with the Maple Leafs to turn it around and what you will do as an ownership group to turn things around?
Jason? Josh, let me tell you a little something about my plan. No, just kidding.
We're here to talk about TFC today and to welcome Josh Sargent to Toronto. There will be a time that I will address the media on the Leafs, but today is not that day.
So, there you go. You knew he must have known that was coming.
Dude, he's going to get it too, because he came in there guns a-blazing, and he's like, what's been going on here is not good enough. We want championships. We don't want to sell jerseys. Okay, well, you're just making the playoffs. You're missing the playoffs, and things are kind of a mess. So what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. I love
this whole
Josh Sargent's thinking right there. Guys coming into town, and a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement. And people are just peppering Keith Pelley about the Leafs and an email to ticket holders.
Well,
I love it.
This whole regime, like they've kind of won a lot of their press conferences, wouldn't you say? Like Pelley had the quote about the not wanting to sell jerseys, and then Tree Living had the snot, and then the changing the DNA. Like they all kind of said the right things at the right times, and now here we are, like just trying to figure out how you get out of a mess.
Yeah. It's TFC, Argos, Raptors. It doesn't matter. The Leafs are lurking. The Leafs are lurking in the background. All right, we've got Emily Kaplan coming up today. We've got role play level of concern in about an hour. We got some Arnie Palmer picks too, right? Great field for the Arnie Palmer. I love it. The players next week. Can't wait. So we'll get to that a little bit later this afternoon as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and up on TSN 4.
Bigger, faster, bolder. Sail GP lives here.
Tomorrow on TSN 1050, your Toronto Maple Leafs take on the New York Rangers in their final game before the NHL trade deadline.
Coverage starts at 6 p.m.
Matthew scores! Hear it all on TSN 1050. The Leafs live here.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Looking forward, Hazy B, to the Arnie Palmer picks, because I've got a vibe about my fave guy. And I don't know, our buddy Scotty Vale, who, by the way, is watching down in Orlando with his buddy the Vin Man, who's apparently the Scotty Bowman of Oshawa Minor Hockey coaching. But Scotty tunes in a lot, like traveling. I think he gets off the course and gets in the locker room and gets Overdrive up on the big screen. I love it.
Love it.
You have to have it.
Yeah, but I like Keegan, I like Scotty, and I like that stinky old Rusty Henley going around that track like he did last year.
Well, he's paired with Scotty Scheffler, I think, the first 2 days.
Rusty is?
Yeah, I think it's Scheffler and Henley. I love the 2-pack, too, man. It just moves. This tournament moves, right? There's no threesomes.
I love a 2-pack out there.
It's outstanding. Just launch people out at 9 a.m. You know, it's because the sun, man, it's starting to feel like we're getting there, right? Like we're getting there. It's sun's up early, sun's up late. Right?
Yes.
Like golf season's around the corner, man. You can kind of feel it.
And by the way, Hazy B, Frankie Corrado, I hope you'll join us. We have to do the marathon now. Like it's.
Well, it's not a marathon.
I was listening to this yesterday.
Dude, we're
guys...
calling it a marathon. I think we make it a big production. We don't have a lot of time. We run the marathon. It's called the Running Room 10K, whatever it's called. It's like May 7th or something. We wheel into Boston Pizza, have a little Q&A, the Overdrive Nation should join us in the marathon. You remember Rocky Balboa running down the streets in Philly and everybody? That could be me and you, Hazy B.
Yeah, I could see that. I think there's a lot of possibilities there. Listen, I'll be honest. It was so nice today.
Dude, I can tell by your tone you're bailing. You're not doing the marathon.
I think I'm committed. I want to be committed.
No, you're not.
I should be
Dude,
committed.
I know when you start sidestepping things and you secretly want to bail and you ultimately will bail. Because I know I'll get that text, whether we're traveling, you're like, nah, I don't feel like it. You'll disappear.
It's leaving the door
open. You have
open.
that vibe right now that this marathon is not happening.
I'm wavering.
I think we get Al's brother involved. I'll run it with Al's brother.
Oh, okay.
We get Overdrive Nation and just we're like Rocky going down.
Here's
down
my
young.
concern with, I want to do this, but today would have been the first. I got to be honest. I got up. I took my kids to school. It was 1 degree and sunny. It felt like 25 outside. Like I was no jacket. I wasn't spandex shorts because, I'm living in a society here, and there's people you have to consider. But it was so beautiful. On my way home, I was saying to myself, go, get outside, get the shoes on, go for a walk and run. Right, a little walk. I love a walk. A walk into a run, back into a walk. No one does it better than me. And I just couldn't get over the top. Like, I just couldn't get outside to do it. I got home, had a coffee, sat down.
Dude, day one, you packed it in?
Day one, I didn't commit, which has me wavering for the 10K. Dude, if I can't get out on day one, that's a real problem.
It's like Jack Armstrong says, Hazy, and I had to do it too. Championship habits. You got to get your ass up at 5 a.m. every day. Like, that's championship habits.
Yeah.
You get on a treadmill. You got an elliptical in your basement you bought 8 years ago. You haven't used once,
I haven't used it once. I literally bought it, and I overpaid. I paid an exorbitant price.
You were so horny for that thing. Like, you were just like, I need this elliptical, and you never used it.
It is sitting in my basement collecting dust. I have not been on that thing in the 20s. Like, literally in this
so
decade,
much room.
I haven't been on that thing.
They take up so much room. It's not like a spin bike. You can stash it away.
They're
something
huge.
Maybe. It is a scene.
Yeah.
The elliptical.
It's a 1,200-pound apparatus.
All right, we got to get to our next guest. We're getting way off track.
Okay. Well, we're going to see our good friend on Friday, right? We know what's coming with Trade Center up here on TSN, and Emily's going to be a big part of that, and I'm sure she's checking her phone. It's got to be obsessive phone checking time for Emily Kaplan. Here she is from ESPN joining us on Overdrive. Is that an accurate assessment of your life right now, just kind of attached to your phone, or what?
I'm so not fun to be around right now. Like, I don't know if you guys are going to enjoy these next couple minutes with me, but no, it's a good time. Everyone's talking about hockey and transactions, and we'll see how many actually go down. It feels like there's always a little bit more hype than what actually happens, but it's all good. It's part of the job.
Absolutely. And, you know, I was doing an interview this morning and was asked about, you know, there hasn't been moves yet. And in the past few years, usually it's teams getting proactive, and that hasn't really been the case. But it appears as if things are happening. Darren Dreger of TSN just reporting out. He just tweeted out, I believe Parayko to Buffalo is going to happen. So it's not finalized yet, but that's pretty significant. Like yesterday we were talking Robert Thomas to Buffalo. They've adjusted. If that goes down, Emily, you know, how does that adjust your viewpoint of the Sabres and their chances of turning this magical season into possibly a cup run?
Well, first, we always trust Darren Dreger, so it does seem like that will happen. And I feel like all we've been waiting for is just the first domino to fall. I think that there's a lot of conversations going on behind the scenes. You know, everyone wants certain things, and once the first big one goes, everyone else feels like they've kind of got to rush into action. So this could be a fun couple more hours, probably not for anyone in my household except for me. As far as it pertains to Buffalo, I just feel like they're in a position now where they've got to go for it. You're that close to the playoffs, and barring an epic collapse, like, you're about to give the fans exactly what they want. You know, I think they've signaled with Alex Tuck, even if they're not close to an extension, they're going to keep him anyway, because why would you want to mess up that room? And I know that one of the big things they were looking at was right side D, or someone that could bring some physical toughness to the playoffs, and clearly they've got their guys. So I think it's really exciting for Buffalo, and hopefully it's exciting for the rest of the league that a couple more of these big names might start to go here.
Do you think that's enough?
Sorry, Frankie. Emily,
Sorry,
we've
buddy.
been goofing on Buffalo for a long time. And
I bet.
I mean, yeah, me and Hazy have had a field day for the last 10 years, and now we're kind of, the roles are reversed here. When you're with your colleagues at ESPN, like, what's being talked about with the Maple Leafs in their season and what they expect? Because I think going into this season, Brian's been saying, he always has this one comment before the season. If they struggle a bit, they always get back on track and they get 100 points or more. And it's he usually calms me down, and it ultimately happens. But this year's been a disaster. What are you hearing from your colleagues and just your own viewpoints on what you think is going to go on moving forward?
Well, I'll tell you, my colleagues at ESPN talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs a lot less than you guys do. We're definitely more focused on the U.S. teams, and probably should, you know, we feel like you guys got them covered. I think, though, when we do cover them and when we do look at the situation that they're in right now, it just feels like one of those off years or transition years. I think, you know, we've probably all fixated here in the U.S. on, okay, there's no Marner. Like, what does that mean for Matthews? And I don't know if, like, they're necessarily linked in that way. I just think that Marner being removed from the team just kind of messed up the chemistry, and they just weren't as deep as they have been in years past. So I think this is one of those years where sometimes injuries happened at the wrong times. You know, they just couldn't get going, and having to sell off right now, it's not great. I think us at ESPN, we're always thinking about the health of the league and the fact that two of the marquee original six franchises, the New York Rangers and the Toronto Maple Leafs, are in position where they're selling off players at this time of season. It's really not great for anyone. So I think, at least from my perspective, they still have a lot of the right pieces there, the right foundation to be a winning team. It's just sometimes you've got to write off 1 year and then kind of reset for the next.
So we've been hearing Buffalo a lot the last couple days, whether it's been Robert Thomas and now the trade for Colton Parayko. Do you think that there's going to be like a trickle-down effect? Like, does Detroit have to do something because Buffalo's doing something? Does Montreal or Boston have to do something? Because all these teams, it feels like, relatively new to the party, all kind of clumped together. Do you feel like there's going to be like a keeping up with the Joneses aspect in the Eastern Conference?
I love them on video so that you guys can see how annoying I am, just still checking my phone as you're in the middle of answering your question.
We got you.
Frankie.
We're doing the same.
That's where
we're
I'm completely at right now.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like the keeping up with the Joneses 100% was going to happen in the Central Division, right? Like, you see Minnesota, like Billy Guerin's just wheeling right now. Like, he knows exactly what he wants. He wants to add to his team. They're like preparing for that heavyweight collision with the Dallas Stars in the first round. You know, the Stars are going to do that. You know, the Avalanche are probably going to do something too. I feel like in the Atlantic, it's just been a little bit murkier, especially in the East, because so many teams are clustered and like no one really wanted to take that big step or subtract from their team, maybe to make an addition. I think the team I'm most curious about in all of this, though, is Detroit, because last year at this time, their players felt like they earned it and then they deserved reinforcements. And then you started to hear after the season, and Dylan Larkin said it publicly, like they were pretty pissed that they didn't get anyone. And so I'm curious with Steve Yzerman, like reading the room now of like, okay, my players have done even more this season, and I know I want to stay my course, but like, can I go and bring us someone? Because I feel like they're the one team that has the significant assets that they'd be able to get it done.
With Emily Kaplan of ESPN, again, reporting, in the last few moments, Darren Dreger, that Colton Parayko on his way from St. Louis to Buffalo. We're still waiting on the details of that deal. But it may open, the floodgates in St. Louis. They have been kind of the epicenter of rumors, I'd say, over the last couple of days. I think the Leafs are in there, Vancouver's in there, a couple of other teams. But if Parayko goes, do you think it's a foregone conclusion Thomas goes? Does Binnington go? How crazy does it possibly get in St. Louis, especially considering Alex Steen is about to take over as the GM there, and maybe that's but is that maybe his plan? Like they're terrible. Get these guys off the books. Give me as many picks and prospects, and give me a 5-year plan from when I get here. Like I kind of sense that could be what's happening behind the scenes. What's your read on how deep this could go for the Blues?
Well, for anyone watching, I just wanted to make sure I was giving you equal love that I gave Frankie. So I totally looked at my phone during your question too, Hayes. I got you.
Yeah.
I think the thing with the St. Louis Blues, which is so interesting, is that like Doug Armstrong has done this before. Like there's a lot of noise around them, but I feel like he's the one that creates the noise every time. Like he's the one that's like putting his players' names out there. And then last year they did absolutely nothing. So, I kind of got the sense this year that even though there was so much noise around their players, a lot of this business could have been punted to the summer. The Parayko one's interesting because that was the one guy that I felt like, again, his name has been out there a couple years and they never seem to want to do it. So waiting to see on what the return is for this. Like I would guess it's pretty significant. I'm not sure the floodgates are going to significantly open after that though, because, again, lots of names are out there. The prices have been really high. People haven't wanted to match those prices, and a lot of these players will also be available over the summer. And I do think that he really is going to give the hands to Alex Steen. Like I know that Steen has been around, but I think that they'll work hand in hand. Like it's not necessarily like he's going away completely, but I think Steen's got the day-to-day business. Like they really do trust him, and he's earned that opportunity.
If you look at our trade bait board at TSN, like in the top 10 names, 9 of the players all have a lot of term. Like there's some significant term there. Does that make it more complex to have a lot of deals get done on Friday because it's not necessarily like a true rental market like we usually see?
Totally. Like, I think that is also what's unique about this year is that we're talking about such serious conversations with guys that have 1, 2, 3 years left on their contract. Some guys even like haven't had an extension kick in yet and they're in the trade market talk. So I think that the new CBA rules, right, of limiting the double retention, the new salary cap in the playoffs, all of these things that everyone's adjusting for and really haven't planned for, it's just hampering business and making a lot of these deals harder to do, right? Like if you're trying to bring in an $8 million player, you used to be able to bring him in for $2 million easy with a double retention. Now it's 4 versus 2 is like a pretty big difference here. I don't know if it necessarily means we're going to get more or less trades, but I think that a lot of these conversations that are happening right now absolutely could get revisited over the summer. And I think a lot of these GMs are saying like, hey, I don't necessarily have to do this deal right now because I've got him for 2, 3, 4 more playoff runs. If I wait until more teams are engaged at the draft, maybe I can get my better deal then.
With Emily Kaplan of ESPN, yeah, it's interesting. Like in the East, Florida's done. Like they've never been in it all season. They were always lurking.
They've never
not
been
history.
Fun, no matter what position they're in.
Right, and now it's like, okay, Bill Zito's going to be in a different spot. Does he trade Bobrovsky? Does he possibly trade other free agents who are pending? And then, once the dust settles, the discussion's going to pick back up. Like, can they just get back on the horse and start running again next year? Because they brought all these guys back, but not all of them are young. Some of them have had significant injury issues.
Heavy miles on a lot.
A lot of miles. Bob's 38. Like what is your projection on Florida? Is it as simple as they get healthy and they're cup contenders again next year, or could this be more of a difficult ride than maybe they expect?
Well, like the one thing that I think we do know about that front office is that they're not afraid to be aggressive. So even what we're looking at, what we expect the team to look like next season, I'm not sure it's necessarily going to look like that. Like, they've made very bold moves in the past, and they're probably already thinking about what some of their contingency plans are. I think that they have enough DNA and enough experience that as long as they get enough of these core guys back, they should be a contender next year and the next couple, because we've seen the proof of concept. Like last year, it was a couple months ago. It really wasn't that long. We're talking about them as like the best team we had ever seen, right? And just so complete, so deep, so playoff ready. I do think this deadline is going to be interesting. And I know a lot of teams that I talk to are kind of unsure on what the situation with Bobrovsky really is. Like, we know that they're not close at all on a contract talk, but he's got some trade protection. Like, how advanced have some of these talks been behind the scenes? And is there anyone that really is that thirsty for a goaltender right now? Like, who really needs that number one guy? And it might be someone that surprises us. I just think that, like, the two teams that kind of make sense are the Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes. And everyone I talk to says that, like, publicly they'll say, no, we're fine with our goaltending. But privately, maybe those are the two teams that might look to upgrade.
Yeah, Vegas is interesting. They lost again last night.
Dude, their goalies stink too. I'm sorry.
They don't beat good teams.
It's been a tough year there.
Yeah, they don't beat good teams. And, like, Bob, to me, it's just the mileage. Like, he just looks like he's out of gas this year. So, you're acquiring a Cup winner and a Vezina winner, but I don't know if you're going to get that guy.
And at 38, Hayes, I guarantee you he wants some kind of silly 3 or 4 year deal for the 2 Cups.
Why wouldn't he? He'd say, you just gave Brad Marchand this deal.
Dude, I get
That's
it.
what I'm looking for.
But sometimes you just got to put your hands up and say, this might be crazy or sound crazy, but we got to walk.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's been paid a lot of money, throughout his term. All right, Emily, we'll let you get back to it. As always, we appreciate you doing this. We'll see you Friday. We can't wait.
I can't wait either. I'll be better company then, I think. I'll be fully locked into you guys then. That's what I can promise.
Looking forward to it. Awesome. Thanks, Emily.
Bye, guys.
Appreciate it. Emily Kaplan of ESPN. Yeah, it's interesting because, like, the goaltending market, you have possibly Bob out there. Binnington you could get, but neither guy playing that well. Both guys just, they have the clutch gene, but are they going to be able to transition into your crease, into your room, into your system, the way you play?
Dude, the Oil got a win last night. They gave up another 4 spot, though.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it was Ingram in net, too, I believe, last night. And
it doesn't matter who they put in net.
It doesn't matter.
It's like they got to chase, and it's like, how many times in the last 2 months, I mean, excluding the Olympics, have they had to chase in miracle comebacks, last-minute goals to tie to get it to overtime? Like, for having those players, those talented guys, they do more chasing than most teams in the NHL, man. They're
a team
in desperation mode, man, with 2 minutes left to try to get something out of it.
For a team that's so experienced and has all that playoff pedigree, they play a pretty immature game, and it's hard to cover it up with the goaltending that they have. Like, the Bob thing is interesting because it's like, Bob could probably say, I need a summer. I just need to, like, recoup, reset, and I'll sign back in Florida. And all those guys are under contract till 2030. Like, the only guys that are going to be gone, it's like AJ Greer, Thomas Nosek, Jeff Petrie. The band is back.
It's not immature hockey, Frankie. Those guys have been around the block too much for immature hockey. They're just stupid. It's stupid hockey. Stupid decisions. It's not immature. They're too old, and they've been around, and they're too good to be immature and make immature plays. Some kid that got called up from the AHL in the first week in the NHL, he might make some immature decisions. When you've got that kind of mileage on you and that talent, it's stupid. Pinches, high-risk plays, nonchalant plays, that's stupid hockey. There's no such thing as immature when you're at that level of those guys.
Fair enough.
I'm not trying to pounce on you. I just don't think it can be described as immature.
No, it's a fair point, but that's the product that they're putting on the ice. At the end of the day, is not winning hockey, regardless of what you want to call it. That's not the recipe for them to win. On the other hand, the team that's beat them the last 2 years, like, they could full well show up next year and say, "We're back. Everyone's healthy.
They might.
Everyone's reset, and we're good to go."
But I'm not as convinced that's going to be the case. It's tough to win, and everyone's a year older. Like I said it going into this season, now everyone's been paid, everyone's won their cups. Like, there's injury problems. Kachuk's been hurt a lot last couple of years. If Bob doesn't return to form at 38 or 39, if you don't have a goaltender, changes everything for your team. But Edmonton, the thing is, the last point on that, in the back of their mind, they know they can still come back and win. Playoffs will be different. But that's what's crazy is they cheat, they make stupid plays, but they know they're still going to find a way to get back in the game. Draisaitl had 5 points last night. Like, it's absurd. Bouchard's going to hit 95 points. You know, it's crazy how good they are when they want to be offensively, and they get themselves out of dodge. But it's going to bite them at some point. All right, role play coming up in about 45. We got best bets. We got Arnie Palmer picks. Overdrive continues up on YouTube Live.
Hazy, I told you about my best buddy Liler, who can just pick up and start jogging. I had lunch with him yesterday, and he just showed me a route he does every Sunday. He runs 25 kilometers just as a random thing on Sunday. And he's going to be doing the marathon. And I already know you're not. You're out. So maybe it'll be me and him.
No, I'm looking into it, but like that sounds awful. Why would you want to run 25 kilometers on a Sunday? Like that's not appealing.
And he likes beers and stuff. Like I don't know how he does it, man. He just gets up and runs 25 kilometers. Takes him 2 hours.
Yeah, that's a big commitment. Like good for him. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, the wheels are in motion here. Like we're really starting to look into this, and the weather's beautiful.
Dude, you're having like trigger words that I know it means no. When you say stuff like looking into it, and I already know, dude. I told you.
Here's
like,
my concern.
When we start around lunchtime, when we're on the road working, you'll be like, you say these types of things, and then at 5:45 for a 6 o'clock dinner, the text comes in and says, "Nah, I'm not going, man. I'm too tired." And I've known for 5 hours.
Yeah, there are signs. I mean, there can be signs.
Alarming
signs at times.
Hayes uses corporate speak. Like
yeah,
he does, if a boss uses synergy.
Yeah. Hey, can I get a raise? Yeah, we're looking into it.
Yeah,
we're looking into it.
We love what you bring to the table. Love the energy. Wheels are in motion. There's a lot of different things that I'm going to say between now and then. But like golf season is I don't want you worry about the knees. Got bad knees, man. You know that. The meniscus, right? I had the meniscus tear.
See, there's another trigger word, man. That one is your go-to. That's your king daddy topper when it comes to jogging.
9 years ago, I blew that knee out, and I'm still using it.
You probably tell other people that want to exercise, I recently blew my knee out. It was 9 years ago.
Yeah, but it's something you have to consider for the future, right? So anyway, we'll talk about it. The weather's beautiful. We're moving in the direction, getting outside, running, playing golf, and because you're starting to get the gear coming in. You see the new G4 shoes, the G112s. They're so beautiful. I just got a pair. They look phenomenal.
They're gorgeous.
They're gorgeous. So going to have to wait a month and a half on those. I might take them for a walk to get outside tomorrow.
Dude, that's worse than Spandex guy. I fully
agree. Golf shoe walk guy?
Yeah.
You think that's worse than Spandex guy? I think you're kidding yourself.
I think the next nice day, we gear up in all of our stuff and do full golf guy for the show. I'm so in. Monday?
Okay, we'll look into it. The wheels are in motion. The wheels are in motion on that. All right, hour 2 coming up. Chris Johnston will join us. Parayko to Buffalo. It sounds like Parayko's on his way to Buffalo. The Leafs are holding out McMahon, OEL, and Lawton tonight, so they have to be moving somewhere. Where could they be going? We'll catch up with CJ on that and much more. Leafs in action tonight. The Raps lose again to the Knicks. Got pumped again to the Knicks. Arnie Palmer picks coming up. Role play. Frankie's in here with the O-Dog. I'm Brian Hayes. OverDrive continues. TSN app and up on YouTube Live.
lot of Canadian content on the floor.
Off and running.
Now it's time to win. Nothing is guaranteed this year. Man's already.
TikTok famous.
Much improved rapid team.
Going to work. His man and Scotty Barnes.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Hour 2 OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. We've got role play level of concern a little bit later in the hour. Brian Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Frankie Corrado. Leafs in action tonight. The trade deadline 48 hours away, less than 48 hours away, and it sounds like Colton Parayko is on his way from St. Louis to Buffalo. So the Sabres, they're really doing it here. Like, they're on their way to Aspen, man. They're going to the playoffs. First time in 14 years.
And they got to be saying, why not, like, make a splash? And this might be the 1 year where it's like, let's not just try to get in. Let's try to make some noise. Mm-hmm. Dude, their record. I watched their start to finish last night against Vegas. Like, what's their record in the last they're like 24-2 or so. It's insane.
They're best team in the league.
Yeah, best team since like December 1st or something.
They're creeping around Tampa for first in the division.
Right on their heels. Like, that's an interesting question. Like, look that up, Doogie. FanDuel odds on who's going to win the Atlantic. I would guess it's still Tampa, but it can't be more than, like, what is it, a pick 'em maybe? You know, like, what are you going to get, 2-1 odds tops for Buffalo to catch them the way they're playing?
I'll tell you one thing they do, Hazy. I watched them last night. Their defensemen have come around. Like, their defensemen make plays. They get the puck up to their forwards off face-offs. They make give and goes and hit a forward that's, you know, an off-schedule play. Their defensemen are creating and moving the puck and getting that puck up to their forwards, because how many years in a row would we be like, these guys are such a clown show in their own zone? They're not anymore. They're good. They're good, man. They get goaltending. They make things happen. They're dynamic. Fun to watch.
And think about this, like, if you were to talk about a big trade for the Sabres back in November, you would be like, I'll throw Owen Power into that deal. No problem. Now with the way Owen Power is playing, it's like, no, we don't need Robert Thomas. We'll actually keep Owen Power, and we'll bring in Colton Parayko. They're going to have Parayko for 4 more years. And that blue line is now gargantuan. Like, they're all massive guys.
Well,
the shortest
guess what
guy
happened many moons ago in Tampa when Tampa sucked and they had that young Victor Hedman back there? Everyone was calling on him.
Right.
Everyone. Give us Hedman. Let us get Hedman. No, you got to be patient with them. Chris Pronger.
What happens.
Yeah, St. Louis ended up with Pronger, Hart Trophy winner. It's like you got to be patient sometimes. But
the shortest Buffalo Sabres blue liner is 6'1", and it's Bowen Byram, and he like flies up and down the ice.
Yeah, he can skate, man. And Byram was a top 5 pick. So Power first overall, Dahlin first overall, and Byram I think went 4th to Colorado, I believe.
By the way, guys, what did they give up for Parayko?
Redeem Murtka and a first, it sounds like. So remember Murtka from the World Juniors, that big right shot defenseman? He's a good player. Mm-hmm. Like, I kind of think if you look at this and you say, is that more or less than the Leafs gave up for Brandon Carlo last year? Like Murtka versus Minton and the first. But you got Parayko instead of getting Carlo.
Guys, we can torture ourselves all day.
I can't do it. I know. It's a very valid point, though, Frankie. Now, Parayko's got more term and more dollars, and, you know, Carlo, they ate half the money in Boston, too, right? Like, there was more to it in terms of what the Leafs got out of it. But I think you can look at the comparison and say maybe Buffalo, if that's the full deal, paid less than what the Leafs paid for Carlo. And again, Buffalo's got to prove that this isn't just a flash in the pan. You know, like next year you got to keep going, and the year after that you got to keep going. But it's interesting, you look at that defense core, and as you're talking about, you know, the young defensemen like Hedman and Pronger the past and Power, because Owen Power really struggled the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Like really struggled, was getting pushed out of plays. And remember what Randy Carlyle used to say forever. How many games do you have to play? How many games?
300.
300 games. You guys want to guess how many games Owen Power's played?
285.
Frankie?
272.
302. He just hit the 300 mark.
Good one, Randy. Good one.
Randy. Good one. But there it is. Randy knows what he's doing and knows what he's talking about. Randy Carlisle was a great example. Talk to Leaf fans. They traded him like idiots before he had popped, and then he goes to Winnipeg and Pittsburgh.
I think he won a Norris in Winnipeg, didn't he?
Of course. The Leafs traded him because, he's not going to make it. He's not good enough. 302 games Owen Power has now played, and he's starting to kind of figure it out. He's insulated well. Dahlin's a superstar. Now you bring in Parayko. You got Byram. Buffalo's, and Alex Lyon's been really good. They're getting scoring. They just got a lot of good vibes.
You knew that Jarmo wanted to do something too, though, hey? Because I think, it was brought to my attention earlier today. I was talking to someone, and he's like, it's still Kevin Adams' team. And everyone's talking about Kevin Adams, should he be GM of the year, and he's going to get votes. And it's like, Jarmo's he's got to do something to just put his stamp on it and say, okay, I tinkered with it a little bit here, too. It's not just Kevin Adams.
Yeah. I just want to tell you, Hazy B, if Jerry Pagula, if they win it and they don't give Kevin Adams a ring, he can frack a ring for him.
Not allowed to do that. Not allowed to do that.
You're giving Kevin Adams a ring.
You said back in the day the Raptors run, the former players weren't allowed to get one.
No, I said they should. I said Noodles said they shouldn't.
I'm not sure that's accurate.
Let's ask CJ.
All right.
If Kevin Adams will get a ring from Jerry Pagula.
Here he is. Chris Johnston, our TSN Hockey Insider, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. CJ, let's look into the future. The Sabres miraculously turn this into a Stanley Cup. Does Kevin Adams get a ring, and then does he immediately get a job somewhere else?
Well, he should probably get a job either way, I'd say. I'd be shocked if he got a ring, though. Does that even happen in hockey for guys you'd trade away or part with during the season?
No, and it shouldn't.
It's been a big debate on this show for 10 years. It's like, because the Raptors, it was a thing. Some people were saying, I wonder if the guys that got dealt at the deadline or whatever are going to get rings, and it was shot down. And Hazy thought they should, and Noodles thought they shouldn't, and it went back and forth for a long time.
Anyway, this is a pretty substantial move for Buffalo and for St. Louis, for that matter. Parayko on his way to Buffalo. What does this tell you about the market and, what these two teams, could they get back involved? Will Buffalo do more? Is St. Louis going to keep selling off? Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I still think the Sabres will do more than this, but obviously a pretty significant move. Colton Parayko's name has been out there prior deadlines. Guys fresh off an Olympic appearance with Team Canada, silver medal winner in Milan. Right shot defenseman. It's crazy that we've seen a few traded today, even if you include the Tyler Myers deal as well earlier to Dallas. So, usually those are difficult commodities and expensive commodities to come by at the deadline. Don't have the exact return just yet, but, it does sound like this is going to be fairly costly for Buffalo, giving up their first-round pick from last year, Radim Murka, plus a first-rounder as part of this package. But, it's a signal and a sign of where we're at. This is a year of change in the NHL. Looks like 4 of the 8 teams that were in the second round last year are not going to make the playoffs. That's opened the door for the likes of the Buffaloes and the Detroits, and we see Utah out here making moves. I mean, I think it's a positive time in the league. With not great if you're a Leafs fan or if you're a fan of one of these teams that has traditionally been a playoff team, but now we're seeing different teams go for it at this deadline, which is kind of a nice thing.
CJ, you mentioned the Leafs. What the hell's going on down there today? They said this morning nobody's sitting, and then now people are sitting. Was that a miscommunication? Was that a change in game plan? How do you break down what happened this morning?
As best as I can tell, it's a change in game plan. I don't believe there's any chicanery this morning in terms of, the lineup that was shown at the morning skate and what Craig Berube told the reporters in New Jersey when he spoke early afternoon, I think was the truth at that point. It sounds like the players that are being scratched tonight, all found out somewhere after that stage that they were out of the lineup. And it doesn't seem as though anything is necessarily imminent in terms of moves for any of those guys. It's purely, protecting the assets. Obviously, those are players that are in play for the Leafs for trades, but, it's not as though, I have any indication at this point that there's, a deal coming for any of them in the next hour or so. So, does seem as though the Leafs are, kind of adjusting on the fly, I guess, to their circumstances. I know they haven't been happy with some of the offers they've got so far, which probably is evident by the fact they haven't made a trade just yet. But, keeping these three guys out of the lineup, if they're able to move all of them by the deadline, it will be the kind of deadline I think a lot of fans and those of us on the outside have been expecting from them.
Yeah, and to confirm, that's Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Bobby McMahon, Scott Laughton not playing tonight. Beyond those three, because now they're clearly out there, I don't see how you don't trade them if you're Brad Treliving. Obviously, it is possible it can happen, but I think you basically put up the white flag on those three guys that you're looking to move them, and you feel pretty comfortable there's going to be a market for them that you'll accept. Where does your head go next with the Leafs? Who's the fourth guy on your list that you think is out there and likely to be traded?
I think the next in line after those three players is Nicholas Waugh, just because, you see what, McCarron got in that deal last night that Nashville and Minnesota made. He's a big right shot defenseman, bottom six guy. Has a little more offensive upside, I'd say, than McCarron. Obviously, a little smaller than him, but he's a big centerman, and so I could see very much him being moved. And then you have some of the, we'll call them depth pieces on the Leafs. Guys like Calle Yarncroke and we'll see about Troy Stetcher, but they're both UFAs. There is a world if they end up moving 3 or 4 what I'll call bigger pieces. That they are also able to shed a couple other players, and it ends up being a little bit more than maybe what I would have thought a week ago. But, we'll just have to see how things develop. But clearly, look, if you're Toronto, I think we all understand where they're at with these guys. I realize there's going to be a big challenge to clearly be better next year, especially if you trade someone like OEL who's got term left on his deal. But this season has been so far off the mark that they have to try to chart a path forward, and it does seem as though they're getting down the road at least a little bit towards selling some of these players.
Is there a world, CJ, where the Leafs can capitalize on the goalie market? Because if you look at what's available, it's like there's Bob, who's a UFA, but he's 38. He's played a lot of hockey, and he makes $10 million. Jordan Binnington makes $6 million a year. And the Leafs at some point are going to have to make a decision on their goalies for next year because all three of those guys need waivers. Is that something they could think about and consider at this point?
They certainly wouldn't rule it out. I haven't heard, anything like progressing there. I mean, obviously trading a goalie is a little different circumstance. There's only so many teams looking to acquire netminder at the deadline. But look, if the Leafs were, trading someone like Joseph Woll, you're not just bringing in teams that are trying to have success in this year's playoffs. He's still a relatively young guy. He's signed for term at a pretty good number. I do think that my sense of where the Leafs are at is that very little is off limits at this stage. The absolute top guys on the roster to me aren't in play, but most of anything beyond that, has to be considered. And, it sounds like we're probably a month now since the Leafs have really started making these guys available. And so, the word out of the Leafs front office is they're listing on a whole pile of players, and I don't think the goalies would be exempted from that.
CJ, do you have any idea or understanding of where Austin Matthews heads at as far as this goes, or William Nylander? Are they just like, this year stunk and we got to kind of move on and we'll see what happens next year? Do you have any idea where their headspace is at regarding the quality of the Leafs this year in this direction and basically what's going on right now?
I don't think they've put their minds around it as best as I can tell. We heard, one of the comments from William Nylander the other day being like, we're just not used to being in this position. As strange as it sounds, those guys, since they've been full-time NHL players, they've been in the playoffs every year. And most of those seasons by, early March, we were basically only debating who they're going to play in round one. That wasn't even up for debate. So, I think that to have fallen this far, this fast, it has been a little disorienting. Couple it, both those guys were obviously just at the Olympics, focused on that. You're back here, all of a sudden, it's the trade deadline. Like, I don't know that either of them have caught their breath. But, it's going to be now a big discussion, I would think, once we get to the off season in terms of the organization coming to them and laying out what the plan is. It's especially important with Matthews, right? He's got 2 years beyond this season on his contract. So really by this time, in 2027, you're going to have an idea. Is he signing? Is he staying or not with his extension? I can't see a world the Leafs would take him into the final year of his contract. So, I think that a lot of these conversations, will be put off till we get beyond this year. But, there's a lot of frustration naturally. It's no fun playing this games and being right at the bottom of the division. But I guess if there's one good thing, they're playing every other night, so they can distract themselves pretty easily.
Well, it's interesting. Those guys, obviously powerful players, faces of the organization, and the idea that the team would go to them and present their plan. And I'm always curious how much say they have in that plan, and whether or not you have an answer on that.
Like if it was brought to them, Hayes?
Well, like let's say the coach, using the coach as an example, if the players, Matthews in particular, I could see his concern. He's looking at his last 2 years saying, all of a sudden, I don't score that many goals. Now, maybe that's on him. Maybe it's the wrist. Maybe it's the back. I don't know what's going on with this guy. But can you picture a scenario where Matthews in particular goes, I'm willing to stick around, but we got to change a lot here. And do you think he'd have that power? Do you think he'd have that say? Do you think they'd listen to him? How does that conversation possibly work out?
I would think he would have some say in that. I mean, it's not like he's running the team. I mean, quite honestly, the questions being asked in Toronto are going to go so far above these guys. Like, who's in charge after this year? I don't have that answer. I don't think we can say for sure. I'm not sitting here firing anybody, but, it's been such a disastrous year. There's a new ownership regime coming in with some of the changes, at the corporate level, with Rogers taking a bigger stake in the team. Where does that leave Keith Pelley? Where does that leave Brad Treliving? What's going to happen with Craig Berube? I mean, I just think there's a lot to be worked out above those players before we're even sort of getting their input. But, when you make the kind of money that Matthews and Nylander do, and they both have no movement clauses, so they have a lot of control over their situations. I think it would just be good business to solicit their opinion. But at the end of the day, whoever's in charge, whether it's Pelley and Treliving or someone else at some point this summer, that person will ultimately have to make the calls here. But, I think that this stage, let's face it, players, I just think the best players do have more say than ever in what goes on. And obviously, there's so few of them to go around that the Leafs are going to want to know what those guys think when they get to the summer and they start looking beyond, where they are this week.
CJ, when you look at Vancouver and how things have really fallen out of favor there, especially with Elias Pettersson, like what's a reasonable, I guess, timeline or some kind of return that the Canucks would be able to get back for a guy like that? Because it's so strange that a guy who's on paper your first-line center would be seen around the league as like, I'll take a flyer on him, but I can't give you anything valuable because he makes too much money. But that's where they're at in their rebuild.
And chomp half of it or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
What are they going to chomp on that guy's contract? Scary stuff.
I don't think they're going to move him right now, honestly, for that reason. He's just not – there's not enough positive value associated with him. Doesn't make a lot of sense, I don't think, to eat money on it right now, as bad as it is. And there's no tarting it up. At least this is a year where the Canucks are trying to finish last, and they're succeeding so far. They've got a nice cushion in 32nd. I think there's still time to work with trying to make Pettersson a little happier so that you can get him somewhere else. I don't see it happening during this season. It's crazy. He's just 2 years since signing that extension. I read an article by Patrick Johnston out there, that he's 139th in league scoring since he signed that contract. I mean, became one of the highest paid players in the league. And, primarily, of course, on his offensive ability and his production.
Seventh highest paid player, CJ. Like, he might be the seventh highest paid player in the NHL.
In 2 years since signing the deal. I mean, it's just not movable. I think there's definitely teams that would take a flyer on him, but it's not because they're giving up very much. And so because of all that, I really think this is a decision that'll be put off down the road, that the Canucks have other players that they can move at this deadline that they're focused on. There's been some discussion around Pettersson, but I don't get the feeling that any of it is going to produce a trade in the next 48 hours.
Yeah, it's interesting where, some of these teams that have been on the outside looking in all year, what they're going to do, and the Leafs are loud because of the market and how bad it's been. Vancouver's been so awful, and they're starting to act on that with the Myers deal, and it sounds like Garland might move. They obviously moved Sherwood, a month and a half ago. What I'm curious about, and I can't figure it out, is how Winnipeg is so quiet. And they've been horrendous all season.
Even if they're done this year, can you not try to add some talent? Or are you just waiting until the summer?
Like they've been a disaster all year, never close to the playoffs, and I don't hear them at all. I mean, obviously, I'm not in the circles you're in, CJ, but What is up with Winnipeg? Like, why are they not being more active or potentially trying to be more active?
Just one little quick point on that. Their coach even came out and made a comment after a game saying the difference between this, it's personnel. That's what it is. Personnel, he said.
Dude, Arnie has fired a lot of shots at his team this year, man. He's used the word embarrassing and a lot. It's been out there a lot.
I think the reason it's quiet is because the players they would have to trade are mostly veteran guys that are underperforming. Not a lot of name value there. Like, I think it's quiet because there's not a whole lot they can do. There's obviously some limitations that come with the Jets. I don't see them changing any of their core players. They got Kyle Connor locked in. Obviously, you got Scheifele and Hellebuyck and Morrissey there. But a lot of the guys that have underperformed, they're old. And so, it's a smaller market. And maybe we just haven't talked about them enough on a national stage. But you're right. They've been out of it since the first month of the season. I mean, whenever they came through Toronto, I think it was before, maybe just around Christmas time, I think New Year's Eve maybe, like they were already way out of it by then. I remember being around them a little bit at that point. And, there's been some calls in their market to call up players from the HL, like do things the way I'm sure some Leaf fans feel right now. But, just to see what the future might hold. But yeah, it's not a good situation. I mean, look across Canada between Vancouver, Calgary, Winnipeg, and Toronto, just for starters. I mean, you've got some teams in heading in pretty quickly in the wrong direction. A couple of them unplanned, like Winnipeg and Toronto in particular. Obviously Edmonton kind of scuffling around right now. I mean, it's not a particularly good time to be in a Canadian NHL city unless you're, I guess, in Montreal. You're probably feeling pretty good about your team.
The one guy in Winnipeg that could probably fetch a return, and I'm sure people are going to watch, is Logan Stanley, who's 6'7". He's having a pretty good offensive year, like is finally playing with some confidence. But even then, like CJ, wouldn't there be a little skepticism? Like, okay, I can give you something. I'll give you something, fine, but it's not going to be like a break the bank kind of deal. It's the first year that he's really had that like success in the league.
For sure. And the other side of it, Frankie, is the Jets have invested a lot of time into this guy and development. And they've, frankly, they've been criticized a lot for it. And he finally kind of pops this year. I'm not sure they've made their minds up that they want to let him walk away. Now, they're going to have to give him a contract that probably makes him a little uncomfortable to do that because they would be paying him based on basically where this 1 year is. It's a great year for the player to have a bit of a breakout performance when you're due to go UFA in the summer, when the cap is jumping as much as it is. You're right. I think that he would have some value out there, but, I'm not sure the Jets are, all that eager to get rid of someone who's been there so long that they've invested the time in and that likes being in Winnipeg. That a part of their situation, of course, is they don't count on getting, the top free agents or anything like that. They're trying to build up their own players, draft and develop well. I think they've done it pretty well over a long period of time. Maybe they've hit kind of an end point here now, but I still think there's a world that they hold on to Stanley. Be interesting to see how that plays out here in the next 2 days.
Well, you mentioned Montreal being, the only real positive. I mean, Edmonton's in the playoffs and likely going to remain in that playoff spot. But the Habs, they're on the West Coast. They lost to San Jose last night. Dobish is like that pitcher that's got a 5 ERA, but he's 19-4. That is what's crazy to me. He wins all the time. Last night he got shelled. I don't know if they could trust Montembeault. Buffalo's pushing their chips in. I have to believe Yzerman and Detroit are going to do something. Based on Larkin's comments a year ago, pressure's on Yzerman. You've been there a long time. You've got to activate here. Tampa, I think, will do something. And the East is wide open. Like, if you're in Montreal, and I don't get the sense in the market that they're freaking out. Like, they've been very patient in Montreal the last few years. Like, very, very patient of just let it grow. You're in a good spot. Don't throw the cap out of whack. Don't do something silly or stupid. But do you think, like, that front office is possibly looking at this saying, like, okay, we're in it now. It's not rebuild time. We're here. Second year in a row you're going to the playoffs. You got a good team in an East that appears wide open. Should there be pressure on the Habs to make some moves?
Yeah, I mean, they're probably quiet in that market because I think that front office has been run really well. Like, they've made a lot of good decisions. And when you see that and your team does turn around, you build trust with the fans. And, my sense of where the Canadiens are at is that they're not wanting to do anything too aggressive. They're not in a position where they feel they're one big piece away from going on a cup run here. But at the same time, the opportunity is clearly in front of them. They made the playoffs last year. They're well inside the cut line now. I think that it's getting a little more real, right? It's one thing to do the rebuild and you trade guys away and you start stockpiling picks and watch those players develop. But, when you get to the stage where the Canadiens are at, each move's important because it's going to affect what they can do down the road. And they're going to have guys to sign. And I think that they're sort of weighing that, especially with the goaltending. I mean, it's no secret they think Jacob Fowler is their guy long term. I think when they're looking at their goaltending picture now, there's some hesitancy to bring in someone that would kind of leapfrog him. Do they want to spend assets on that? Do they want to deal with potential ramifications of that? I think that's been a debate point. And, at this stage, I don't expect them to get into the goalie game. It does seem as though they've been poking around the center market a little bit. Obviously been linked to Nazem Kadri for some time. I still think that's a trade under the right circumstances they would make. And I do believe Kadri would welcome the move to the Canadiens if that came together. But at the same time, I don't see them out there offering massive packages. I think they're kind of more laying in the weeds and seeing if something develops. So, they've been pretty patient, I'd say, as a front office. You're right, for a passionate fan base, the fans have been pretty, patient too. And this is probably the last year where everybody will be afforded kind of that level of calm because no matter what happens, for the remainder of this season, next year is going to start with the expectation they're more of a contender and that they're going to have to operate in a certain way. And, they're still, obviously, I think a couple pieces away from being a true contender, even though they got lots of nice players and all in the right age group and all those things.
All right, CJ, it's going to be a fun couple of days. Good luck with it. We'll catch you Friday. Thank you for doing this.
Right on, boys. We'll see you then.
You got it. Chris Johnston, our TSN Hockey Insider, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Red Tag Days are here with the all-electric Toyota BZ. Goes from 0 to 100 in just 5.1 seconds and charges from 10 to 80% in just 30 minutes. Drop by Maple Toyota today.
Hey, CJ used a word early on that I have never heard of, dude. JP, I'm going to need you to find it. It might have been a Leaf question, but it made my eyeballs
really
bulge.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't pick up on that. I don't know what you're referencing. Okay.
Yeah, it was like the Leafs are not going to be like Shazammy, or it was some kind of weird word, dude.
Okay.
JP, you got to find it.
We'll find it.
We got to play it back and figure out what he was talking about, what the word actually means.
Okay. We'll do that. We got role play coming up. Arnie Palmer picks later this hour.
Yeah.
Moving
well,
towards
let's
the
just
trade
get down
deadline.
to it. Are you leaning Scotty or Rory? What do you like in Arnie's course?
I mean, Scotty loves Bay Hill. So does Rory. Rory's won there before as well. But Scheffler at Bay Hill, hasn't he won it the last 2 years? I think he's won it the last 2 years. He's won the Players.
Win it 3-on. My two picks are Rory and Keegan. So you can go out.
All right,
you can go
I'll
from
take
that.
Scotty and I'll figure it out from there.
Don't you dare do Rusty Henley.
I was
on
just
me.
about to say I'll take Henley, but I'll leave Henley to you. You can have Rory, Henley, and Keegan Bradley out of the gate. I'll take Scotty. I'll tell you the other two, and we'll mix in a couple more.
Love it. Love it.
OverDrive continues up on YouTube Live.
Thursday.
All I do is win like I'm Khaled. It's that time. We the GOAT, we the winners.
Matthews and the Buds.
The one with the baddest.
Versus the Rangers.
Shoots and scores.
Molson Leafs Hockey. Thursday on TSN.
I hope JP didn't tip you guys off on what I heard from CJ that was somewhat shocking. I want you guys just to take a listen again, and you tell me if you've ever heard this word. JP, hit it.
I don't believe there's any chicanery this morning. And
Chicanery?
Chicanery? You've never heard that word before.
Ever in my life. You have?
Yes, I've used it many times.
No,
it's
you
part
haven't.
Of the rotation. It's a great word, chicanery. I love that word.
Frankie,
chicanery's
Frankie,
a great
have
word.
you ever heard
Listen,
chicanery, dude?
I have not heard that word.
No
used in
one
that
has,
context
bro.
before.
You've never heard it before?
No one hears chicanery.
Chicanery.
The only time I've heard that word is an F1 race when they go through the chicane. But that's all I know it from. I don't know it in the context of the
When
Maple
my
Leafs.
buddies get bombed all weekend, it sounds like chicanery.
Yeah. That's what it is, being like a trickster, kind of.
Yeah,
being
there's a
deceptive
T in there,
bit.
though. That's it. That's the difference. No one uses chicanery, dude.
It's
you
actually
never have.
Beautiful way to use it. Like, he applied it perfectly. And that's what you're trying to avoid if you're the Leafs. You don't want any chicanery, man. You don't want, anyone acting in that fashion.
The OverDrive translation for chicanery is monkey business.
Yes.
That is the direct translation to this show.
So what are we going with, chicanery or chicanery?
Chicanery, I believe, is how it's pronounced. That's how I use it.
Say it one more time. One more time, JP.
Chicanery.
Yeah. Thanks,
Dude,
CJ.
Nobody uses that word.
Dude, great
I'm
word.
50
You need
years
to start
old.
using it. You
50
need to start...
years old, and I've never heard it. And you know I like to toss in an odd word here, Hazy B.
Yeah, you do. But that one I find hard to believe. 50 years of speaking the language, you've never, ever heard that word used?
Not even close. You think I'm the only one? JP, get on the mic. Have you ever heard a guy use chicanery?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah,
oh, come on.
JP's
no
internationally
way.
traveled, dude. He's been to
love
Japan.
suing me on live television, JP, and I've had enough of it.
JP is well cultured. One thing
Let me
we
guess,
did not...
Doogie, have you heard this, Doogie? Let me guess, Doogie, do you know what this word is if you ever heard it?
I've heard it, but I've never used it in the sentence.
Dude, you're 21. You've never heard chicanery.
Yeah. Doogie, you were an intern like 3 weeks ago.
Right.
You have not used the word chicanery or
I don't
heard
think
it.
so with Doogie.
And I've heard the way Doogie talks to his buddies because I've seen it on the phone. It's outrageous. It's like teenage slang. That's Doogie's vocabulary away from this show. It's crazy stuff.
He's used it with us. We told you that when we were in Winnipeg. Doogie let his guard down and turned into a teenager again and started using terms like dead ass and stuff. And and I looked at him. We're like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Like, that's not...
I didn't know what dead ass was, and then I got around my teenage daughters, and they were like, "Yeah, dead ass, here it is." And I was like,
exactly.
That's what Doogie says.
I'm like, we're in the chicanery world, Doogie. We're not in the dead ass world. Okay, we're educated. But JP's an international man of mystery, dude. That guy, I think he can speak Japanese. I think he knows a lot of the language that you're not familiar with. And one thing we did not mention at the end of the show the other day when we were talking about cap size, JP's squash is 8 1/4, I think it was. Wasn't it 8 1/4, JP's head?
Dude, I don't think they make too many.
Piece.
I don't think they make any more, like, many MLB buckets bigger than that.
No,
like, I think
as big as it gets, man.
Yeah, like, I think if you go into the gift shop at down at the Dome and you say, "You got anything bigger than like 8?" The people will look at you and say, "What are you, Shrek?"
Yeah,
like that.
Exactly.
No, that's a special order. Like, we'll have to call New Era and put that order in for you. We can't.
Doogie, look it up. Who's got the biggest squash in MLB? Like, what's the biggest hat out there? Like, there's got to be some monster that's just got a huge.
Someone's got a mailbox head out there for sure.
Well,
they got to make it special.
Someone said that Bruce Bochy has a huge head.
Brucey Bochy with that Christmas tree mustache. He loves a solid big bucket, Brucey.
I think it was who was it? Bryce Harper was talking about him for some, and I don't even know how Harper like associated with Bochy, but Anyway, yeah, I think that's the word on the street anyway. It's JP and Bruce Bochy, the biggest heads in North America.
I don't think Bartolo Colon could be far away from that.
No, Cologne's was 8.5, I would guess.
Dude, Colon had a 9.
Yeah, like his head was massive.
When he was with the Mets at the end, he had a 9 cap.
Well, remember he'd swing and his helmet would fall off.
Yes.
Because I think his head was so big you couldn't get a helmet that was wrap properly.
Dude, he beast-slapped a homer in San Diego that went into the building. Like he launched one.
Yeah. It was one of the great calls ever, man. They went that telecast went nuts.
Let's end the show with Bartolo Colon monster homer in San Diego.
Rounding the bases.
And get a close-up of that dome. I bet you Big Poppy Ortiz, huge dome.
It's a big head.
And JP, no chicanery when getting that clip.
See, now we're learning. We're 50 and we're learning.
Chicanery.
All right, role play here. We got a few of them on the fly, okay? I'll just send them out for you guys. Oh, you're playing the role of Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
What is your level of concern? You've won your last Rocket Richard trophy.
Well, the way things are trending, I'm probably the man I saw down in the green room the other day. Stevie Caldwell.
A couple of whiskeys and 5 or 6 beers.
Because, I don't know, team's not winning. I'm getting older. I don't rip them home like I used to. How many things are, obviously I have to be responsible for my own play and play better if I'm going to get it back on track next season. But there's so many changes around him that have to happen as well. I mean, this is creeping towards, play it territory, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and give him a Stevie Caldwell.
I think that's
fair.
Reasonable, yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Well, think about it. Craig Berube came in, he changed some of the systems and the way the teams played, and he's not scoring the same way, and he lost Mitch Marner. So there's 2 things right there. If for some reason there's a personnel change, whether it's behind the bench or, who's playing with Austin Matthews, and he feels truly healthy again, who knows? He probably could have one more in the tank. I don't think you just lose it to that level if you're that talented and that elite.
2 years ago, this guy was chasing 70 and was scoring at a clip that was absolutely absurd. And he's 28 years old, 29 years old. I think there's competition. It's tough, but there's no one else really in the league right now. Ovi's coming to an end. McKinnon's going to win the Rocket this year, probably score 50 on the nose, 52, 53. So I think it's still available to you. But, yeah, I think this system, you're playing with Max Domi and Bobby McMahon for the majority of the year. You're not ripping home 60 goals. It's just not going to happen. But I think it's unfortunately reasonable to suggest he may not win another one. All right, Frankie, you're playing the role of the Vancouver Canucks. What is your level of concern?
Just play it. As soon as there's a question, just play it.
Probably can't.
But ask it anyway.
You're stuck with Pettersson, and you have to make it work.
Sure, play it.
You can never ask me to stop drinking.
There's 2 scenarios for the Vancouver Canucks. It's door A, where you're stuck with Pettersson and you have to make it work. And then there's door B, where you move him out for pennies on the dollar just to say that you got the money off the books and you're going to rid yourself of it and you're going to start fresh and you get nothing coming back and you probably got to chew on some money as well. And it's going to hamper your cap situation for years to come. Those are the 2 doors. And you hope that if you go down door A, somehow he finds it. And you can surround him with some, I was going back and looking at some of the Pettersson viz from 2022-23, which is the year he had 102 points, and then the following year, which is the year that he got the extension. He was playing with, Kuzmenko and Mikheyev. He wasn't playing with, world beaters, man, but he was skating. He was assertive. He had some jump to his game. You watch him now, there's none of that. It is as static as it gets, so I don't know. I think you're going through door A and hoping for the best and expecting probably the worst.
Yeah, I think that is realistic right now. It's the ultimate gamble. We talked about it yesterday of another GM. I think putting your career on the line and saying, I'm going to take a swing and I'm going to get him out of there because it's more about Vancouver than it is Pettersson. There was the weird JT Miller stuff, and then Hughes wanted out, and Tocchet wasn't maybe on his side, and maybe Foote isn't on his side. I don't know that. But it's the ultimate risk reward. It's the ultimate risk reward because the talent is still there. He's young. He doesn't have an injury history. You know, it's like if you go out and acquire that guy and he pops, the problem is you're not getting him at $5 million where it's going to be like incredible value. At best, he's going to play to his contract. That's the concern. Like even if you get him and it's probably worth doing it, I think it's such a gamble. There's a lot of rumors out there that Mackenzie Weegar could be on his way to Utah. So we'll see if that deal officially materializes. But that would be Parayko, St. Louis to Buffalo, Weegar, Calgary to Utah, Murphy, Chicago to Edmonton, Myers, Vancouver to Dallas. It's all right shot defensemen.
It's the year of the right shot D, man.
Yeah,
if you ever wanted one, this is the year to get one.
Tell you what, if you got a kid that's right shot D that could make a 20-foot pass, you're going to have a great life.
Yeah. You got value in the league. But that would suggest there's a lot of buyers, right? We've been hearing buyers market. Well, there's a lot of teams making deals, and I haven't heard Colorado yet. Minnesota, I know they've been active, the Hughes deal.
Always factors into moves, though, Hayes. Like, those boys down in Utah, like, they're in desperation mode, I think. Coach and GM. Like, they've been at it a while now, and if they don't make it this year, there's probably trouble on the horizon. So they got to be active, man. They got to say, how can we get this team into the playoffs? Because if we don't, we're probably in big-time trouble.
For sure. New market, right?
Yeah.
Like last year they didn't make it. The basketball team stinks. The owner's probably like, hey, let's get going here too, right?
Like that owner looks like a cool dude, backwards hat on, but he's probably cutthroat too, where it's like, no thanks, moving on.
Wow. Uyghur's had a weird year. Like he had a stretch where he was in a bad place.
Yeah.
Like really bad place. But, he's a very capable player. He's a good
I've always
player.
liked him a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
He's a good player.
He plays with some jam, too. Like, he's kind of your Swiss Army knife of defensemen, right? Could play on a power play, can kill penalties, can block shots, going to get in your face. Like, you trust him out there. He does everything really well. Like, he's not an organizational number one, but he's a really important defenseman to any team.
Mm-hmm. Well, and he's one of the pieces that came back for Tkachuk. So if he goes, we'll see what the price tag is. Huberdeau's injured, surgery. He's not going anywhere. That happens quick. That was a few years ago they made that Tkachuk deal, and at the time it looked like they got a lot in return. Maybe they haven't. But it makes you wonder what else Calgary's going to do now. Kadri's name's been out there. If Uyghur's gone, I think you'd move off him. Who else can you move off? I don't know. I mean, at some point, everyone can't be traded, right? And that's like we were talking about with the Leafs. Just because you want to trade 6-7 guys doesn't mean you can. But now we'll see.
Calgary needs to draft a really high quality player.
Yeah.
Like they need some high end upside. Remember, we did that Leaf Calgary panel a little while back. It's like when Matthews and Nylander weren't on the ice, you watched it play and you're like, this is just 50-50 stale kind of hockey. There's nothing it's a lot of just the same kind of guy. And then Matthews and Nylander would hop on, or Nylander specifically, and you're like, well, that's a difference maker. Like they need someone that has that kind of upside.
I know, but you need like mid game breakers. Like it doesn't have to be William Nylander. I'm trying to think of an example, but like there's got to be some mid game breakers out there that are doing something positive in the hockey game. It just can't be forecheck, back check, dump it in, maybe finish your hit, maybe not, cough it up. It's like,
okay, here's a mid game breaker. Is Drake Batherson a mid game breaker for you?
I think he's a step above. Like he's a star player. Like he's a good player. But
I
just
think he's a good player,
guys that can rip home a goal, be responsible, be physical. Like you notice them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bobby McMahon's playing good. He's like a solid mid-game breaker. He's a guy that can score 20 goals. You notice his speed. You can notice his physicality. He could fight somebody. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Bobby McMahon on his game is like a mid-level game breaker where you're like, that guy's making a positive impact on this game. A lot of good teams have a bunch of Bobby McMahons that guys do different things and have positive impacts. There's guys out there doing right. I watched it. I was at an East Coast League game on the weekend. There's guys you can call up from that league to go do what some of these guys do. CJ mentioned Calle Yarncroke. No one's calling for him.
Nobody.
No.
You could have
absolutely
had him
nobody.
at any point for anything.
For the last 3 years, he contributes 0 to a game.
Right.
0.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem. They have too many guys that contribute 0 to the game.
Cardio merchants.
Yeah. But you do need, like, a superstar in Calgary. They had it, obviously, with Gaudreau. They had it with Tkachuk. They need that. Like, new building coming. They need a superstar. They need a face of the organization. All right, Arnie Palmer picks coming up. Best bets coming up.
I just want to leave you with this, Hazy. Like, this is what we're talking about. Kenny Peggs always tweets us great ones. Gorilla Monsoon used to use chicanery all the time when Bobby the Brain Heenan was up to his shenanigans.
Yeah, I love that. I remember those calls. Gorilla Monsoon was the greatest of all time. Jim Ross was great. JR was
Gorilla
great.
the guy with the bald guy with the stash?
Yeah. No, he was the bald guy with the crazy glasses. Massive dude. He was like the original guy. Like WrestleMania 3. Gorilla
Who was
Monsoon.
the guy with the cookie duster and the bald head that always did the interviews?
Oh, you're talking Mean Gene Okerlund.
Yes, I love a Mean Gene interview.
Mean Gene was great. Mean Gene was phenomenal. All right, best bets, Arnie Palmer coming up next. right, Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Looking at the old API, Arnie Palmer down at Bay Hill. The Florida Swing has officially started last week in crazy fashion. I'm not going to take Nico Echeverria to go back-to-back. But you have a 3-pack you've already established.
I got a 2-pack. I got Keegan and I got Rory, correct?
I thought you threw Rusty Henley in there. You want Russ?
I'll take Stinky Rusty, and I'm also going to go to Europe. I'm going to go for a 2-to-round Europe and take Tommy Fleetwood and Bobby McIntyre.
Ooh, Bob McIntyre. Okay, I like that. I'll take Scotty. This is where it gets – I'm going to take Morikawa. He won a couple weeks ago.
Ooh.
You know, I think him winning and getting back into the swing of things, he's a guy that can be in the hunt. And then I'm going to throw in Chris Goddard. Guy's always in contention, Goddard.
Dude, major stud.
Yeah, major.
Drives me nuts he doesn't do up his golf glove, though. It honestly drives me nuts.
He's got a weird look. There's a couple of guys like that. Ryan Fox, the way he hits the ball and kind of
Ryan
motors
Fox
around.
looks like he's going to do like some kind of squat before he hits. He's got his penguin feet. It's weird. It's a weird vibe.
He putts in 2 seconds. He walks up to the ball and just rolls the rock.
Great player, though.
Yeah, he is. This is where it gets tough, man. I'm going to throw out a couple of names at you that might surprise you. Jake Knapp has been really good on tour this year.
He has.
I'm going to take Jake Knapp. I'm going to take my guy, the Pot Geeter. I'm going to take Pot Geeter to bomb golf balls all around Bay Hill.
I'll tell you what, that stinky Pot Geeter, he lost some weight, but he still moves his rock.
Mashes the golf ball.
Yes.
And this is a big park, man. Like, you got to hit the ball.
He's either going to shoot 83, 84 or 63, 62.
Yes. And JT's back. New back, who dis, new swing. I'll throw JT into the swing of things.
I love it. I like your picks this week. I like them.
Yeah, I'm all over the map, but I got Scotty as my pace car guy. So there you go. Best Bets powered by FanDuel. The Arnie Palmer. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun tournament, man. We get the players next week. Right? That's going to be a good one. And
great couple weeks of golf, man. And Augusta Nationals around the corner.
Prime's got that Rory doc coming out of, the build-up and the Sunday and the win and all that.
When is that coming out?
It's coming out end of March, like right before the Augusta National hits. Wow. It is going to be elite stuff.
Elite.
So, yeah, man. It's golf weather today. Right? Like, we know it. We're going to wear our gear. Peter Millar, G4 shoes.
Monday we're going golf guy look.
Okay, I like that.
Just no spandex. No spandex with the bulge out.
Exactly.
Save that
Guys,
for Lakeshore.
Thank you.
50 and free. Make a hat. 50 and free.
50 and free. Free living. All right, Frankie. Thanks, buddy. Good seeing you.
All right, boys. You too.
Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web, and up on YouTube Live. Every show up on TSN's YouTube channel. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at...
I don't believe there's any chicanery this morning. And
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.